What's going on, everybody? This is Mike Bennett and Mike Baker coming at you with another episode of the Google News Update. We got 4 heavy-hitting articles that we're going to hit you guys with today. Kind of took a week off from the Thanksgiving break, but those 4 topics we want to cover today. The first one will be Google co-founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin relinquish control of Alphabet to CEO Sundar Pichai. Sounds pretty juicy.
Yeah.
The next one will be a Google veteran who's been with the company for 14 years reveals the biggest way search will change in the next decade. That sounds pretty juicy too. The next article is Google is reportedly giving away freebies through the Advanced Protection Program. And the final article we want to go over is protesters accuse Google of retaliating against organizing workers. So last one will be about fighting against the system. So I'm ready to dive in, man. You can go ahead and kick off the first one, Mike.
Yeah. So this first article is pretty dope. Just in general, the idea that Larry Page and Sergey Brin are willingly stepping out of controlling Alphabet, and they're moving away from it and letting Sundar Pichai, who's already been the CEO of Google for the long standing. So if any of y'all that don't know, like there's Alphabet and then there's Google. Alphabet was a company essentially created out of Google, but became the parent company to Google, to be like a holding company for a couple of other investments that Google had into like different types of businesses. So
Alphabet Holdings.
yeah, Alphabet Holdings. Like their website is like abc.xyz. And like instead of a .com, it's just abc.xyz. But like basically Alphabet had all these other companies. Like there's like Calico, and there's this Calico is like it's some type of health related company. There's a whole list on there. There was a company that I was really into called Chronicle, which is like a security company for like encryption and web security and all of these other things that are so like Google you would use, but not necessarily just Google by itself. It's for like the whole internet of security and security of the whole internet. That there was a Loon project that was basically about like being able to give internet to everybody using balloons, and which is where the Loon part comes from. But it's like these oversized, really, really large balloons, like way larger than like a blimp, but essentially it would be able to just hover in one location and offer internet to people down under it, like to all the people down below. Similar like to that project that they had like that. It was, remember that project where they were watching Baltimore, where they were using balloons to watch over Baltimore? Like like that military project, sort of like that, but in the idea of being able to give balloon like
that was crazy, man.
Down.
I remember that.
Yeah, that's a big article out there about that. Like that's Creepville.
Yeah,
I mean, like they really and they were getting
really did that.
They were getting zoomed in levels. Like it was like God view. Like you could really zoom in on somebody and see exactly what somebody's doing, and you wouldn't be able to tell what they would. You just see a little balloon up there, kinda, because they were like in Fort Meade, but
you could see the balloon. So I don't know what that would be like. How big the balloon was, right?
Yeah,
it was all the way in Fort Meade, but like you could see it. You could see it was distant, but you can like it was big enough for you to be able to see it all the way from Baltimore, which is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's the angular of geography, man. Like that. It was all the way up. It was out for me, but it was so far up in the sky that on an angle you could definitely see down toward Baltimore. Like,
man,
it's I mean, and then of course the scope that's on the thing, the telescope that's on the thing. But nonetheless, back to this whole Loon thing. Like Alphabet is basically this company that is a holding company, and under it is also Google. And like they have all of these different companies that are associated with it. And Sundar Pichai has basically been the CEO of Google for like the past, I want to say like 7 years or so. And Sergey Brin and Larry Page, they were the original creators. They were the ones that originally created Google back in 2000 or 98 or whenever they originally did it in the university.
That's what says Wikipedia.
yeah. Like they were the original ones that like founded this in university. There was a guy named Eric Schmidt who sort of helped them sort of guide the way as a business to sort of he essentially became CEO for at one point to sort of like guide them into the future that they're in now, to be like the whole aughts, the 2000s and ahead. That was basically like the ideas of how they can make more money were sort of through Eric Schmidt
Mhm.
and Sergey Brin and Larry just sort of made money off of it. But then after that, it was Sundar Pichai. And Sundar basically ran that shit for a while. He pushed out. He's like a product manager initially. Like he started off with Chrome, pushing out Chrome extent. Like it was Windows. It was like a Internet Explorer extension that he created, and then he started pushing the Chrome initiative, and then he pushed the Android initiative. He didn't create Android, but he pushed it further along to be what it is today. And then this whole cloud thing. He has this other guy, Thomas something or another, who's running the cloud platform. But Sundar Pichai's basically been there for like the past almost 10 years. And the idea of him taking over Alphabet as a whole, and they really haven't said that they're replacing him for Google. But now he
Yeah,
also
that would make
manages.
sense. I don't know how that would work. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, like now he also manages these other things. It's trying to be like, what is he going to end up doing for real? And well, the thing he really is, he's trying to just like cut the meat. Yeah, I mean, he's cutting the fat off the meat. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he's looking at things to see, like he's been at Google for those 7 years, just as like the CEO running the thing, seeing how all the business structures work, closing up shop on some of the industry. Like people hate the fact that Google closed up a couple of software products that they used to love to use and all this stuff. But he's definitely trimmed down the fat on a lot of Google and made it more of a leaner, sharper company to be able to actually make money in other things, because one of their biggest money makers right now is advertisements, and
Yeah.
he at least helped them get into the way of trying to make money in other businesses models beyond just advertisement. Because
I wanted to ask you a question though, real quick, Mike, because I
Mhm.
was looking at the article and I was reading it, and it makes it. I guess this is a good topic to kind of go over because right here in the article, I'm just read a little bit of it and I want your opinion on it. It says, starting off, but Page and Brand also handed the CEO title to Pichai at a time of increasing scrutiny of big tech, and Google and its subsidiary YouTube have faced a severe series of controversies since the company co-founder stepped back.
yeah, yeah,
So,
and
what do you think? Do you think the reason why they took a step back is because, based on the type of people that they were and what they was looking to do with the direction of the company, is starting to take a different direction, or is it just like what do you think that is about?
yeah. I mean, I feel like even at minimum, Sundar Pichai is a better position just as a personality to be able to talk about those issues and try to deal with them. Like Sergey Brin he really sort of phased out early in Google, like after like 2008, 2010, he sort of just went along his way and was like, yeah, I got too much money, man. I just need to go and live. Like Larry Page was basically left with like trying to manage the company. He's not necessarily the most sociable, and he's not necessarily like the most community oriented. He be thinking of like some weird, like really interesting ideas. Yeah, I mean, and it's like some things that you're supposed to speak behind the office, but you're not supposed to tell like a crowd of 1,000 people, 10,000 people type thing. Yeah, I mean, he be saying that stuff. Sundar Pichai is like better for that CEO position because a lot of it is a marketing position. Like you have to be able to give off like this impression that everything will be all right, and being able to like express your ideas of how you want to see the company moving forward.
Need to be able to sell ideas and sell a dream, man. Yeah.
Yeah, and you need to be able to understand them and what they mean to the people. Like, because these are some, like Google deals with like very new ideas and very new things, and some of those things can potentially be scary to people, but you have to be able to explain it to them in a way that they understand, and be one of those reliable figureheads. Even if I mean, if he's going to be a figurehead for the most part, which is basically what he can be. They're like the only few things that he can be is a figurehead, but like
Mm.
he can do that job better than a Larry Page could, and feel like these two basically have trust in him doing that job. If they say you can just take over all of Alphabet, like they still have the, like based on the article, they still have their shares, like they still have control of like company. like decision
Of
making. I
course, yeah,
think they're still on like the chair on the board or whatever.
yeah. They still
But
got, of course, had their nose and everything.
yeah, but the day-to-day business and what happens is really just under him right now, and it's kind of a crazy position to be in because Google is the largest company, and now you just basically tacked on like 10, 20 different companies
Projects,
added
yeah.
on. But like Google has all of these businesses, and he's been there for so long that he can probably look at these other companies and say, how can Google actually
Hmm.
help these companies better?
He's able to
Uh,
be like managed from an oversight, like have more oversight over the projects in that's happening in Google because he's been there for so long, while focusing on what Alphabet's businesses have been. So okay,
Yeah,
I
and
see
seeing
how.
like does Google have, because Google itself has to be stripped out still. Like there's still a lot of things like you said with YouTube, and the business, like YouTube in itself is kind of one of those businesses that's just large on its own.
Yeah.
And Google has that. Like right now, a lot of people really think that YouTube should be spun out into its own thing. And if it is spun into its own thing, will it be spun into its own thing under Alphabet, or will it just become its own company? Ideally, I think it should be part of Alphabet, but just its own company, and not allow it to
Mhm.
like potentially get more ad monies independently, and require them to take more initiative in how they deal with those issues about things like deep fake videos and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like they would be more responsible instead of being able to hide under Google all the time. But I mean, because I mean that's what it is. Like
Yeah, yeah, that's
whenever
what it is.
YouTube get in trouble, Google steps in.
Yeah,
And it's all like YouTube would sort of have to be able to be independent on its own and stand on its own, but it could be a worthwhile investment if it does.
yeah.
But yeah, just the idea of him stepping in, and the fact that he's Indian, and the history of where he came from to be able to get to that position, like
I
that's
didn't
the
want to say that because it sound, I was sitting here debating, like, I would like, does that sound racy? But nah, I
yeah,
feel like that's like you're looking at it and it's like, come on, man, it's the undeniable truth,
yeah,
man. That
yeah.
him being Indian, we already know that they kind of they've taken over tech, man. It's been like that since 1980, right? Like that's
Yeah, I mean,
say
like
what it.
if you go over, I mean, California is basically like it's half Asian anyway. Like after the whole World War II, and well, actually World War One and World War Two, like they basically made their stamp in that area, so it's half Asian anyway. So you're gonna see a lot of Indians there. You're gonna see a lot of Japanese, Korean, Chinese, and when it comes to mathematics, they dominate in those realms. You can see it on the world stats for real.
So I go.
And like that's just what it is. But the idea that they even thought that it would be good for them to do that means that they're thinking on an international level to be able to say, let's hire somebody who's, I'm sure he's American, and I'm sure he's been in America for a while,
Yeah,
but
he's
he's
American enough.
yeah, he's not native born American. And that had to be like a real decision to be like, are we going to make him CEO? And then I want to see, was it really a decision, or they just like, yo, we only credit you on your merits and not like the color of your skin, or some
Mm,
like MLK. Like we
right.
actually credit you because of the skill set that you have. And I mean, he proved himself over and over again. So this only really just says that he's continuing to do that because their fourth quarter is probably looking pretty good. They're basically, all the quarters basically probably looking pretty good for them to be like, yeah, we're gonna continue with this CEO and we're gonna give him more. Like
Right.
that's rare where you be like, yeah, he's already the CEO of this, but we're gonna make him an even larger CEO.
COO. Yeah,
Yeah,
very much. For
I
sure.
mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. Let's go to the next story. What is the topic here?
A
A
Google
Google
vet.
veteran.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. The Google veteran who has been with the company for 14 years reveals the biggest way search will change in the next decade. Um, I'm I'm pretty stoked on how it's going to change in the next couple years, because just in general, um, that just means that technology is going to be in more places. Um,
Correct.
I mean, he basically just talks about like the process of, he talks about how people use it, but then he's talking about like the context of it. So
Yeah,
in
he
this,
says in the article, it says, yeah, I think he's about to read an article. It says, skim down to this point, and it says, over the next 10 years, the biggest change to Google will be less about how the information is presented and more about Google's process of getting the answers you're looking for. And I
Mhm.
think that's really key. In fact, I don't. So this is where I sit with this. I feel like, let's use a bad search engine like Bing, for example.
Yeah.
Right? Bing is not a good search engine because I feel like all it does is just it has whenever you search for something, this just brings you a conglomerate, it just conglomerate amount of information that just like
Mhm.
really doesn't they don't really answer questions or anything like that. But for Google searches, I feel like it does an excellent job. If you put in your how tos or why this, or if you start with, when you're starting your search and you're looking for something, it does provide, from my position, good information that would lead you, in the direction that you're trying to go in. But the fact that they say here within the next 10 years, that's what the focus is going to be, just goes to show how much intention and attention they have with their demands and their requests to constantly grow and change, based on the direction of technology. Because I think that's what you search for. When people don't typically when they search for things, they're searching for an answer. So if Google is saying within the next 10 years, like they're going to be, from my humble opinion, even more focused on bringing answers, I think it's going to, again, just kind of set them as the king of search engines. You know what I mean? I feel like they're
Yeah.
already there, but
Yeah. I mean,
they're like, if they, I
they are
wonder, are
already
they
there.
saying, yeah, I wonder, are they saying, like, when they say they're going to be focused more on answers, are they more like thinking like, if I was to search, how do I make chocolate chip cookies, would the Google Assistant respond back with an answer in 5 articles that teaches me, or like points me in the direction of making different types of chocolate chip cookies? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
they
directly.
tried to go into detail talking about a particular piece of how they going to do it, just in general, but like they go into detail. So like in general, in what they were saying in the article, they were saying that like one of the ways that they're going to be doing improving on search in general is just through like contextual clues with like the words that are around the actual thing that you're looking for. Like one of the issues with what they do now, what they were saying was like when people do searches, for the most part, they tend to just type in like a 2-word search and they don't really get much information off a 2-word search. So they end up having to use like other things to be able to determine what you're really talking about, like other factors, other metrics. But what they were saying, like with the addition of like of artificial intelligence, that you'll be able to just because they were saying like people only put in 2-word searches because they're used to old search where you had to be very specific of what you're looking for, so you only really typed in the keywords type
Yeah,
thing.
the keyword.
I mean, and like they saying like
No prepositions or eight,
yeah,
this or
yeah, and
that.
yeah, exactly. And they're trying to say like now they're trying to get to a point where you can just give it a real sentence and it understands the context of that sentence all the way down to like who, what, where, when, and why, but like
Mm,
how and like I mean they already add on like this. I mean I've already like studied this idea, like there's 200 metrics of Google. There's 200 plus. I would say plus because I'm sure they're just continually adding
right.
levels of metrics, but there's 200 plus known metrics that they use, like checkoffs. When you do one Google search, 200 different tests have already gone through in that one search to determine like the narrowed down point of what you're really looking for, like including with like the time of day, where you're located, like what device you're using when you're doing the search. Like there's all these factors that are included, not just with the words that you typed in. And like they want to be able to make it so that you can communicate with these things better. Even like with the way that I think beyond this article that he was talking about, because he doesn't really go into like Google, like the artificial assistants, like the Alexas and the Google Homes. He doesn't really go into that too much, but that's how we are going to be doing search for the next decade, for the most part, is people are just going to be asking this thing questions and they're finding out the answers based on that. And they can't talk to the thing like a robot. They're only going to be able to talk to it like they can talk to it, which is like a human. And like they want to be able to talk, just be able to ask it a normal question, not really have to explain what they're trying to say. They just say it in context. Like
Yeah.
when I like if I'm standing next to somebody, I say, "Look at that car over there," and you're in a parking lot, you're going to see a robot will see 100 cars,
Right.
but a person will see the car that I'm looking at because
Well, they
that's the
zero in
one.
on one or two cars. You see this car or that car, right?
You don't even like to a person. You don't even have to say this car, that car. You can say, look at that car over there, and you see the one with the action happening, and you be
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah,
Oh,
that's that
I see
car.
what you're getting at. Oh, all right. Okay.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
in your mind, you understand, you have intuition. You've dealt with scenarios before where you like when somebody say, "Look at this car over there,"
Right.
it
True.
must be the car over there with something crazy happening.
Right. Or I mean, it
So
must be a flat. Like if it, you got a regular parking lot and it's a
yeah,
Lambo in the
it's
middle
like
of
it's
that.
yeah, you be
Yeah,
like,
you like, yo,
oh,
look at
I
that
need to
car.
look at that
You're
car.
not
Yeah, I
talking
mean,
about the '95 Toyota Camry, but like
yeah,
lot.
yeah,
You're looking at that
exactly.
Lambo.
You looking at that
Yeah.
car. You know what I mean? That car right there. And like a computer can't really discern that. They say they looking at a parking lot, they see a car, and you say, look at that car, it's a car. I see 100 cars. Tell a computer, like, okay, which car are you talking about? And what does that mean to a person? What does the word that mean? Like that car over there, the one that's shining with the rims on it with the 20 inches going, 25s. I don't know what they're doing now. But like, yeah, I mean, with the Cybertruck in it. Yeah, I mean, I mean, look at that Cybertruck. Yeah, I mean, like, you gotta be able to. They want to be able to understand those type of contextual clues, and like a part of that requires other things. Like you have to be able to hear, but you have to also be able to see. And like, they're doing all this artificial intelligence to be able to do like visual, what do they say, visual APIs. Google has this whole visual API thing going on with Google Cloud, and Amazon does as well. But being able to see things and identify them for what they are, but then even beyond that, being like I said, and if it is a parking lot scenario where there's 100 cars out there, being able to say, when I say that car, out of the 100 cars, I still mean that one that's doing the crazy shit over there. Yeah, I mean, and
That one.
yeah, the that one. I mean, and not being able to have to break it down and say the Lamborghini over there with the shining blue color. Like you don't have to break it down in that context because people don't necessarily communicate like
Like
that.
that.
And like with all these different sensors coming into place, because I mean, just like our human senses, we need eyes to see, we need ears to hear, we need microphones for computers, we need cameras for computers. So like they need to be able to see and hear. And if they ever start smelling and touching, that's when it's
I don't know.
over.
That's different. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
like
don't know
that's
what. Yeah. It's no longer a computer.
yeah, it's no longer computer. So like at that point, if they start doing that, and then you throw artificial intelligence and you got to start killing those things. But in the meantime, they trying to be able to make them things good search. They trying to make it so that they can understand us better through basic context, and
I mean,
it can
well,
be
it's
helpful.
supposedly so. So the AI. I mean, it's supposedly supposed to you know need some extra work, but I feel like a form of AI. If you're typing a sentence, you already see it happen when you're doing a Google search.
Yeah,
Like if you
yeah. I
put in
mean,
like fly
man,
car, what I mean,
I
when
I
you put that in, yeah, go ahead.
I, man, my 2009 when I was going to Morgan, man, I made that my paper for my artificial intelligence class. It was just a regular 6-month class, and it was my artificial intelligence class. And I was like, yeah, Google is artificial intelligence, and like laying out all these factors and features of how how Google helps us with our own intelligence by being a central conglomerate. I spent all this time writing up all this stuff and doing a
Yeah.
PowerPoint presentation. He like, man, I don't know if Google's artificial intelligence. It's pretty cool, but it's not a man. I wanted to just tell him shut up. Nonetheless, I think it is, and it's proven itself to be like in order for artificial intelligence to work, to really work, you need to have a massive collection of data. And Google has a massive collection of data, like your brain. You can be smart, but if you don't know anything, it doesn't matter. You got to know stuff and be able to discern things, do critical thinking. And now they have the collection of data. They're able to do the critical thinking, and they're outputting all this stuff. And I think really what they're just trying to figure out to do is like all the best systems to output all this data, output all this information.
Google does what it does best, man, which is, change lives. So
Yeah.
What can you
Let's
do?
go into this next article. It's this one is about the advanced protection program. It's for uh, G Suite users, and they're basically talking about uh, freebies, incentives that they're giving away for G Suite users. And when I say G Suite users, I mean people that use Google apps for business. So with a
Mhm.
lot of with your Gmail account, if you got a Google account, you can use like Google Docs, you can use spreadsheets and all these
Spreadsheet, yeah,
things.
Google spreadsheets, yeah.
And but the issue with those is that if you're under the free contract, you technically don't have too much of an ownership or license to those things beyond their free terms of service. If things go missing, it's really not their fault,
It's
even
not
though
their fault.
they make their systems fault tolerant, but you don't hold any real liability to it until you start paying for it. And with G Suite essentially is the business version of those softwares. And they basically have protection plans for them. This part of it is just going over like the redundancy of how they do their backups and the securities that they have in place for when you actually use G Suite, and like like backing up email, making sure calendars, emails don't get erased, calendars don't get erased, documents don't get erased. And if like an employee leaves,
Well,
how
I
do
mean,
you?
well, how often does that stuff usually happen though? As far as like, see, the only the way first off, the way that I gotta give them round of applause for the way that they did some copy on this title, because it definitely doesn't say anything about that as far as the G Suite or anything. But I
Yeah,
wanted to, but like when it comes
yeah, because
to
they really talking about the free giveaways, the things that you get with
yeah,
it. The real thing that they really talking about is that they giving away a Google Home and something else. It's like because now you can just talk to your assistant and talk and give it commands to put in your calendar and stuff like that. But they're giving it away now. And the other thing was they talking about the key fob. So those little keys that you plug into your
yeah,
USB to allow
yes,
you to
right.
log in.
I can see
Um,
it down here. Yeah, different. Yeah, man, this article is definitely a clickbait article, but I mean, it's
yeah,
fine. I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
good. It's
yeah.
good information that's being shared. I mean, because I would say out of a lot of the, when I was going through setting up things with my business and trying to get, all of this, all of the back and stuff you got to do. I had no idea that G Suite was even like a thing. And when I came across G
Mhm,
Suite, how effective it was is just like synchronizing everything. Like it definitely is, I think, the way to go. You know how it goes when you have a website, you're trying to find a domain and then email
mhm,
address and stuff like that. But with G Suite, they've pretty much, like I said, they've made it everything synchronous, which is another pat on the back to Google. But I think it's good too that now that they are reading through the article, they are adding in a quote unquote like an advanced protection program
yeah,
because
yeah,
if the more investment people have in it, the more and more it gives Google the incentive to make sure that they have security around these systems because a lot of like one of my previous companies I worked for, they used G Suite for these things, right? But they did like they process like financial study, they did like transactions for what did they do? I don't want to give my previous company his name, but they
mhm,
did they did stuff for what do you call it, cash registers, like those point of service, point of sale systems and stuff like that. So thinking that they would, because they were a smaller company, like G Suite was perfect, you know what I mean? But at the same time, you need to have, when you're working with, sensitive information like that, you want to have as much security as possible. So I see it
yeah.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to figure out the best ways to start locking things down. I mean, G Suite. Let's say this: G Suite was basically the. I consider that to be. It's just my opinion. I consider that to be like the number one like differentiator when it came to like collaborative production, like productivity. Like there was no real like way for multiple people in an office to work together um, without just doing like separated email where you create a document, you save the document, then you got to upload it to the email, and then you got to send the email to this person. They got to look at the
Yeah.
document, and then
Send it
they give
back.
the edit back to you, and then you got two documents. And next thing, by the end of it, you got like seven documents of the same thing. Like Google perfected that by being able to put the document in the cloud and just allowing you to go to it and allowing everybody to go to the
Right,
document.
access it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like and now and it basically pushed Microsoft to change their whole business model because they were basing their whole business model on the fact that they had rights to like a monopoly of Office users that people were just using the old way of thinking, and
Yeah.
they felt they were not monopolizing it, and they had it, and Google came with this whole system. They didn't come out with a better piece of software that did like the same thing, if not better. They just did something that was completely different.
Different. Yeah.
I mean, they focused on the collaboration feature first. Like now, Microsoft has Office 365, and it's like it's
Like the
cool.
OneDrive, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like the whole off like it's getting better and better every time I go to it. I see it. It's like it's getting better and better. It's getting closer to being what official Office is in the web, but it's just not fully there yet.
Wow.
And
Because they're chasing after Google, man.
they still in the process of chasing Google, and it's like they're chasing two different things because like they still because Google still has the office productivity. I mean, Microsoft still has the office productivity market, but Google has the better way to do productivity.
Yeah.
And like they're just sort of basing they're fighting those two battles, like which one is the better software versus which one is the better software to use. Like
Yeah.
like Microsoft has some a whole bunch of nice features in there because they've been around for like 20 years doing well
Yeah.
30 years at this point doing Microsoft Office.
They have a whole lot, a lot of this stuff is battle tested. You know what I mean? I know,
Yeah, but
back in the day, you had
it's
stuff
not
like, yeah,
internet first, and
yeah,
that's what Office is. I mean, that's what G Suite sort of is. It's like internet first, and then they built on top of the internet versus just building on top of a
and this is
computer.
a direct to consumer marketing principle, man. I think I've said it numerous times before in different episodes because I do marketing on the side. It's kind of like a little thing I do. But
Mhm.
what Google essentially did by creating IG Suite is the principle is called creating a blue ocean out of a red ocean, meaning that you have the red ocean is where everybody's kind of doing, it's already been like, attacked and people are doing everything. Like, for instance, you said with the whole how Microsoft was doing stuff, right? But then what Google did was they seen that these people had an issue, and then they presented a different opportunity to them that pretty much took people from like that red ocean, that pool of people, and created something new. You see what I'm saying? So now that they are pretty much spearheading it, like this is their ocean of people that they deal with, they were spearheading that. Now that Microsoft is trying to catch up to them. You know what I mean? Like, so
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
that's the reason why Google was able to, ascend so high because of that principle. And maybe I forgot the guy's name. You said in the previous article, it's something Smith. We were talking about
Eric Schmidt.
Eric Smith. Yeah, yeah. As far as business, but he must understand that because I see that over and over and over. What Google does is constantly finding a way to present a new opportunity to people who are having the same pre-existing problem.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They look really deep for like the core root of a problem, and they work on that before just trying to work on like coming out with a better piece of software. They try to come out with a software that really solves a problem and solves like a definitive
Yeah.
problem that other people really like. They go for the large problems,
Right.
like
That's what
any
it is.
then that's what they try to solve, and they bank their money on that. Let's go to this next article. Protesters accuse Google of retaliating against organizing workers. And actually, it's been updated. They're talking about how they feel like Google. Well, they don't feel like they believe that Google has been basically trying to stop these workers from organizing for against Google for contracts that they have out there and things that they've been doing with government government entities.
Yeah.
In particular, there's two people. What is it? Lawrence Berlin and Rebecca Rivers. They were workplace organizers. They basically work at Google, and they were trying to set up organizations for protesting against Google. And the belief is that they were doing it using company resources on company time, and that's basically a no-no.
Yeah.
Like even if you potentially try to get away with doing it on company time, you at least can't use company resources. And if you want to use the company resources, don't use Google's because Google knows everything.
All right.
But like that they're gonna know when if you're printing out flyers talking about let's protest at 4:30 on Google's printer,
Well, they
like
gonna run them keywords. Oh,
I mean they
protest 4:30. What?
like yeah, and like that's what they were talking about. Like they were setting up meetings and meeting rooms and they're meeting
Yeah, these
about the organization about how y'all going to demonstrate against the organization in the meeting room.
yeah, these
Like,
guys don't know how to move and they don't know how to properly move, man. They must not be from where we're from, bro.
yeah,
If you don't go
they
to
they not. I mean, you don't you go out and down the street
Right, you
somewhere.
know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
mean, you
Like
don't
hit my line after work or something. Don't
like,
don't we're gonna meet at 2:30 in such and such office to talk about the problems we're having with the company. No,
yeah,
and you're gonna put that in the CC everybody on the email. Like, come on.
yeah. I mean, part of that is the new era where it's like we can do whatever we want when we want, and that's what we're gonna do. And I mean, I get it. I mean, I get the protest because I mean, it's a legit protest. Like they're talking about being able, the fact that Google has been, they're going against the idea of Google potentially using their, what is it, their artificial intelligence. Let me see, where their artificial intelligence for like visual identification and being able to find people at the border. I think that was like the particular one, and where like customs and border being able to, and the immigrations thing for ICE being able to identify people and use that technology, and using Google's software for that, division API in particular. Same software that, I mean, it'll be probably Facebook's version, but it's the same software that you
Same
basically
stuff.
use, and that tags a person's photo. It's the same technology. It's just they're using it with a criminal database, or what they believe to be a criminal database
Right.
of people. And the protesters are basically just saying, no, we don't believe that y'all should be working with the government to do that. And even if you feel like that's the case, like even if you feel like that's, I mean, you are easily in your right to protest against it, but I mean, doing it on their land, that's not the best way. You don't plot against the enemy on the enemy's territory.
Right.
I mean, and what they were also saying is like that Google was potentially like really trying to get at them by like sort of hassling or harassing them. And like, I don't know if they said that I gotta read through, but I don't know if they said that they actually swatted them or tried to swat them. I don't know if you
Let
ever
me
heard of
see.
swatting, where like they call a SWAT team on somebody. Um,
Oh
but
no. Well, I might heard of it, but I didn't know that. So that's what they're trying to do.
I don't think it was that. Actually, that was another article. I'm in a whole nother word. There was another article about Elon Musk potentially swatting one of his old employees. There was this whole thing going on. But yeah, I mean,
Well, it's like it's getting out of hand when we getting there, bro.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, it's at that point.
SWAT.
I mean, you called a SWAT team on your home, on one of your employees, and had the police deal with it. Like,
Yeah,
but
you're not go
nonetheless,
up on someone else's turf, man, and then so yeah, that's just crazy, man. But
yeah. I mean, it's ways to go about doing it, but that's what the big argument really is like, is Google in the right for taking their initiative? Because Google had to do their due diligence about the fact that you can't, if you're going to organize, you got to organize under these rules and under this order. And if somebody is organizing against your company, it's your due diligence as a company that you have to do these things to these employees.
you have to vet the situation.
Yeah, and like
That's
I mean, there's rules to the engagement of war. I mean, like the Google is playing their rules, but these guys that are protesting are not playing the rules that
they
they
don't
need to play,
understand the rules.
because they feel like, we don't need the rules. The rules are, those are conformist rules. They're not our rules.
Yeah.
We're gonna rebel, and we're gonna rebel against everything. And it's, you start losing your argument.
You
And like,
start losing your job too.
yeah, and you start losing your job too. Yeah, exactly. But like, yeah, like if you really got a mission that you're trying to stand for, you got to be able to do it in a way that still preserves the argument that you're trying to make. Like, you can't just go out there and fight for every cause, and then you do every action in a form of retaliation, because one of those actions is going to work against your own cause. I
Definitely.
mean, and it's going to end up hurting your movement more than it's helping it.
And even if the argument that they're talking about, as far as with Google starting to get into the government business, one of the things that is just being a little bit wise about where technology is, and really just paying attention to what the movies tell us, right? Like, eventually, that's where technology, if it doesn't start there, it's gonna go there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, if you look at what we were just talking about with in previous episode, what Toshiba's doing, like, technology at the end of the day, because of the power of it, is going to always find its way back to solving a problem or being within a certain realm of influence that can make things like, dealing with in a certain space where it makes it easier to control, or you're dealing with control. You know what I mean? That's so
yeah.
with them not understanding that, it's like they just don't understand the game. I would look at it like, if I was in these guys' shoes, I would
I
just
feel
kind of
like
just
they might
charge
be
the
younger.
game. Like I think they definitely will be younger. Don't kind of.
I feel like they might be younger, like, very, very academically in that, like, I mean, not in that, but like they actually are pro academia, but they're still probably new to like social affairs and how to deal with like social processing. Like you know, Google, they call their office a campus, and like they treat it like an institution and like a college in a way, in a lot of ways. And they probably still have that college mentality and not really dealing with like regular city society, like civil society, like, and how uncivil society can potentially get. But like,
for allowing stuff like this to go on.
yeah, like companies got the police on their back. Like the companies got police as their military when they want to use them. I mean, and if you're doing things in the wrong way, they will just they won't even talk to you. They'll walk away and call the police. I mean,
you getting escorted out is just a speed dial away, man.
Yeah, and you like back to business and we just excuse him. Sometimes this happens.
Yeah, he's being removed from the campus.
Yeah, as we speak.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you got to play the game, man. I mean, everybody be rooting for the underdog. Anybody that's going through any type of protest, I feel like somebody's being pushed down or whatever. You root for them, but you got to play the game.
Right.
You got to find a way to do it.
You got to understand the difference between war and warfare, young man.
Yeah,
young lady.
So that's the last article. All you guys that's listening, all you ladies that's listening, if you like more, go ahead and do the damn thing. Go ahead and press the like button. Go ahead, comment. Go ahead, subscribe. Go ahead, share. We are on all the resources, the Facebook, the YouTubes, all the podcasting platforms. Just look for us. And we will have more stuff for you coming soon.
There you go, man. Like Mike said, find us anywhere and everywhere, man. You know where to search for us. Google News updates. Got more stuff coming your way.
Take it easy.
Peace.